Hey, everybody!
Hello.
Are we live? Are we here? Are we live? Are we here? Are we near? Are we far? Are we queer?
Are we wherever you are?
I see people saying, I'm ready for this.
Yes.
Hey, everyone, let us know if we are live.
CB says we're live. Go
Awesome.
subscribe to her.
We love you too. All right. So I saw we had some people here early.
I liked the stream like 3 days ago. Just want to let you know that, Jesse. That's where I'm at.
Perfect.
And welcome. Sorry, we are a little late today, everybody. I was on Jenna's channel, and we have a good time and lose track of time, as it should be.
And there are a lot of you that probably came here from there too.
Yes. Right. I see hellos. We anxiously await your return.
Come to us, Candy.
I see people saying, yes, we're live. We are glad to provide escapism for you. Ah, yes, good. Stig, your comments in Jenna's video made me laugh. You're awesome. We scan... Oh, go ahead.
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay. I was just saying we stan guest ass kissing on this channel.
Yes, we do.
Very much encourage it.
There's nothing we like more.
Long time no see. It's been ages. Ages, I say. We're just waiting a little bit longer, and then I will have my guests introduce themselves. Should have been themselves, but who grammars? We're just writers.
Exactly. It's not important.
Literally can't spell.
Oops. Yes, we're glad that you found this too. I hope to live up to your intrigue.
Dun dun dun.
Stig, I remembered what I was trying to say last stream. I was trying to say I'm a mystery wrapped in an enigma. That sentence that I couldn't remember, I finally figured it out.
To be fair, I hadn't really kept on to that. But
he's like,
thank you for informing me.
He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, bitch. What?
It does sound vaguely familiar when you say it, but it is a quite popular turn of phrase, so who knows, Sam? Who knows?
I know, I should just be on live 24/7, just for the people.
Yes.
No!
That won't inspire any creeps to come along.
I mean, your family doesn't need it, do they?
My kids wouldn't miss me, it's fine.
I mean, except for plastic bags, pretty good.
All right, so go ahead and introduce yourselves, because we're about 3.5 minutes in, and that seems like a good time.
Me first? Should I start?
Jesse pointed at you, so go for it.
Hi, my name is Stig. I am a writer and a professional hot mess. I write space opera mysteries with a inkling of political drama and gay romance and, yeah, poor grammar mostly, but I'm hoping to sort that out.
Awesome. I am Jesse. I write dark fantasy. I just completed my mess of a first draft, and now I'm working on fixing it up.
And I'm writing Mom Samantha L. Nasset. This is my channel where I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer-parent things. I host these live streams every Monday at this time, and I post videos on Wednesday. So, yes, Ella, we will be answering some questions about
questions.
World building. We do.
I'll answer anything, to be fair.
A lot of conversing in this one.
So the goal is to talk about world building, but it's not a strict rule. As I try to find where I posted our talking points for the night. And I'm looking in the wrong chat, everybody. There we go. Okay, so for those of you who are new or have never been to one of my Let's Talks before, basically what we have here is I have guests and we talk about a topic that is of interest to them, primarily about writing stuff, but really just could be anything I think can fill up 2 hours of time. So
Sounds good.
So sorry, I got just
That's
so
okay.
glad I found this channel in Jenna's last stream. I'm a mom to a 7-year-old and 2-year-old, and it's rough to keep up with the passion. I feel you there. I am a mom of 3, which are ages 8, 6, and 5. I was like, how old is my oldest?
If you're looking for mom content, then Sam's your mom.
I see what you're doing, sir. So early into the stream, couldn't even wait 10 minutes. I promise. You're good. I appreciate the disclaimer, but I understood that you were being sarcastic. All right, so today we're going to hop into the first topic, first talking point, which is what's everyone's favorite part of world building?
Do you want to start, Jesse?
Either one of us is fine. Go ahead.
No, ladies first.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, in that case, so my favorite part of world building. Now, you two go ahead. You're the guest. Come on, one of you. Take a pick.
Okay, I'll go. My favorite part, right now I'm writing a series with like really shitty gods. They demand human sacrifices and they manipulate people and everything. So it's really fun writing that religion. So I like building new things, new religions and stuff like that.
That's a fun
That's one I found really fun.
Okay.
I really love making political systems for some reason. That cracks me up. So or any body of govern, really. So I've been reading a lot of Greek and Roman government systems and incorporated that into my world building, which was a lot of fun, but a very deep rabbit hole to fall down.
That can be a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So my favorite part is building the cultures and the fashion, which is technically part of the culture, but I'm adding it special. So the fashion and the culture and specifically the fashion of the world, because that just really helps define the characters, and you can express your characters so well through the fashion and the significance of certain things. Like if your character's from a more modest society, but they're wearing things that bear a lot of skin, that can really set them apart from all of that, and vice versa too. If they're from a society that it generally shows a lot of skin because it's no big deal, but then that character is always covered from neck to toe. It just shows that they're part of the society, but don't necessarily follow all of the norms.
What did I read? I think it was a Brandon Sanderson book where women wore gloves on a certain hand to cover up because that's the powerful magic hand or something. This is something I read vaguely, and I thought that was a really cool fashion cultural statement thing to make.
Like Elsa.
Couldn't tell you what book though.
Actually, that reminds me of Elsa, and then because Elsa always wears gloves, and then Anna's all I just thought she had a thing with germs. So that's also a fun thing.
Yeah, I get most of my fashion inspiration from Wish, which I guess is bad, but when they make a movie, the budget will be really cheap, I guess.
I mean, Wish has really good advertising photos, if nothing else.
Yeah, some of the outfits are really bomb ass. I mean, you definitely don't get what you pay for, I think, but
it's a gambit. So Audra's favorite is societal structure, which is cultures, as I was saying, which is always fun. The legend and histories, the religion down there with Jesse. Matt now demands that you arm wrestle to choose who goes first always.
I would wreck you, Jesse. Just saying.
Probably.
the weather systems. That's actually also really good because that can really affect a lot in your novel, especially the cultures and stuff of your world, because a culture that has to adjust to living in a desert is going to be very different from one that lives in a jungle. I just came here from your... thank you. Thank you for
Welcome,
stalking me over here.
Welcome.
I like writing the gods too. Thank you. They like to think so too.
Thanks, she made them herself.
Genetics. Planning it and creating the characters that live there. I love building
Did you make your
religion.
world first, or did you make your character first? I'm sorry, I'm just
good
jumping in
question.
here.
Oh no, you go ahead. Characters or world? What came first?
I made
I love
characters first.
I primarily make the characters and the ideas of the characters, and then I build a world that will suit my plot and character needs. So, and then it just they all build together as I plan out the whole story. What does chat do? I'm enjoying creating my magic systems and supernatural rules. Just jumped.
I've never written a magic
welcome.
system.
Because you're sci-fi, right?
True.
But you do you write a science system?
Well, this is set in another planet, so I have no dinosaurs that died, so there's no coal. So I had to think of something to do for that. So very eco-friendly, what's it called? Power systems. So wind power and
Energy.
yeah, energy. So wind power and sea power and stuff like that. So that was cool. Sun power because I have 2 suns, so it's a lot of energy.
See, it's the same thing. It's just how do you explain the whooshy whoosh? Science or magic?
Yeah, whooshy whoosh. I feel like that has to be a merch idea.
How do you explain the whooshy whoosh? That's my new merch line, everybody.
Yep.
My favorite part of world building is the psychology of the people in the world and how the culture affects them in their day-to-day. Yes! See, I love that part. Geography is my fave. The literal building of the world. Love creating characters. That's not... Oh, wait. Do you create characters before your world building? Because that's separate. I'm terrible at fashion. Fair.
So is Wish CB, so it's cool.
Favorite part of world building. Coming up with an interesting point and figuring out why it is that way. Example, the guards in my world use swords, and I had to figure out why they do, or why when they have guns. I really love world building systems where guns and everything are an option, but then they still have cultures and societies that use things that are technically considered more primitive, and they can outshine the guns.
Is that what they call gunpowder fantasy?
I don't know, because Andromeda is a sci-fi space opera, and there's the Nietzschean society that still does hand-to-hand combat, and they wear chainmail, and they can still outfight people with blasters. They do also use blasters, they just don't prefer to, and so that really I love that in it, because that whole thing, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, but then they kick ass with the knife in the gunfight, and I'm like, yes. Eva likes to build the land.
Build the lad. Me too, Eva. Me too.
She corrected herself.
Oh, dang it.
Creating the interactions between different myths and creating locations where the mythical and mysterious live peacefully. Ooh.
Yes, peace is boring, though.
But you can, when things are peaceful, then you can fuck them up. And that's how you get your pot.
I prefer things to be a little bit fucked up, and then you just crank up the fucked up. So, no peace, no time.
No time either.
No.
In my world, it's set in medieval times, and they are incredibly sexist.
Wow, that's original.
That's a thing. I'm not super fond of that because it's
Taylor's
I'm part of it. I'm currently writing my first novel. I want to publish it eventually. Any beginner advice? Practice.
Finish it.
Practice, research, write it. Did you want any like advice on anything specifically, like outlining or searching for an editor, world building? We are not writing today. We are doing a let's talk.
But feel free to write.
Oh yeah, you can write while we talk. That's fine too. Half of my clothing is from Wish. See, it's a gambit. Some of it's good.
Yeah, and I screenshot the things I like. Like there's some very cool because I have a pop star as part of my main cast, and so there's a lot of very pop star outfits. So I screenshot it, and Wish is like, "Oh, so you like this? Well, let me show you some more. Here's our entire catalog for 2020."
Okay. So my co-host is feeling unwell, so Jesse's going to pop out for the night. So everybody say bye to Jesse. Jesse, you can go ahead and do your outro. All of his links and stuff are below.
Okay, I wasn't here long. I was trying to push through it, but I have a really bad headache, so I'm gonna go lay down. But I'm Jesse, Queef in Cyborg Central. I write dark fantasy. I finished my first draft, and good luck to you guys. Have fun. I wish I could stay.
Bye. Wish
See you later.
Already.
Bye, guys.
Bye. So, what I like writing magic systems, and I think magic systems are fun. But as we just mentioned, Stig does not do magic systems because he's a sci-fi writer. So, I like to go ahead.
No, what do you like to, Sam?
I like to incorporate my magic systems into the cultures, so it kind of all adds in for me. Because a culture with magic is going to be different than a culture without magic.
I am writing a short story with magic in it, so that's like my first dabble in magic. But I guess in the short story, we don't really have time to kind of build the biggest magic system.
I have a controversial opinion that world building isn't the most important thing in a short story, so...
I agree with you.
I think it's still important to know your setting. I just don't think the building of the world should be the priority.
No, I mean, you have a lot of other stuff you have to fit in a short story, so maybe not world building is the most important. To me, anyway. I mean, different strokes for different folks.
History is good. Ooh, psychology, yes. All right, we're going to scroll down a bit, see, because we got behind. This person does characters first. CB is a plotter before.
I kind of make the plot after I have my characters and I know the sandbox they're going to play it, and I'm like, so what should I do here? No dinosaurs. I'm sorry, Jess.
Welcome back. I got too worried about getting so that was what you wanted to talk about, Stig, right? Was when to stop world building. So first, I'll go ahead and ask chat. When do you how much world building do you think is acceptable? And then Stig and I will answer in a moment. But it's gonna be my first piece of merch when I eventually do a thing.
Me and Jenna will model it for you if you need models, obviously.
Yes. So
she has the experience and I have something.
a masculine physique?
Yes, let's go with that. Good save. Good save.
Couldn't there be fossil fuels from other creatures?
There could, but there isn't.
That's fair.
I like the wind power. And there's a lot of rivers and stuff because it's based on like Norwegian terrain, some of the parts of the country. So they have a lot of waterfalls, which is like how Norway powered itself before the oil.
I feel like world building is two sides of a coin, like a justice system and criminal system. And the thing I like about world building is okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's always fun because you gotta have your checks and your balances.
That makes sense.
Ooh, sub to Candy. Sub to Candy for this. Sorry, I saw somebody else. No, Mike, that's Jenna. I was just on her channel, and I know the real Jenna. That's her. Oh, I also love creating names for my worlds. I'm gonna toot my own horn and say I'm pretty good at locations. So how do you? So how do you name things, Stig? Do you do it simply or complicated or symbolic?
Characters, I love a good symbol for a name, like old words that means things, and that is a character trait. I'm a sucker for that. I'm sorry. I can't just name things willy-nilly. But terrain is literally the worst for me. Like locations can go die. I don't want them in my story, but I have to. But it's god awful to name them. I'm not good with it.
I stick by the naming things simply because that's just how things have been named throughout history. Like most things, like bathroom or restroom or latrine, it just all means place you go, and so like that's how
I guess simply is the way I do it. I have like 3 major cities in my land, and they're all named after the spaceship that landed there and formed the foundation of the city. So that makes sense to me. And then like there's a mining town named Blue Creek because it's in a creek and there's water in it, so that makes sense to me. And like, yeah, I don't know, the Northern Forest because it's a forest in the north. I'm kind of Mount Doom. That's where I am.
So I also do this in like my contemporary fantasy and stuff. I call it the place between the veil or the veil or stuff like that. So sorry, I'm trying to scroll through. Everybody's saying bye to Jesse.
Miss him already.
I want to know when this was.
I don't know. You can ask Fox to make a mean out of it. Stab many tomatoes, whatever.
If you've written any books, what's been your favorite part to write? Why? Favorite book that you've written? So
this is my first book.
This is my first book the public will know about.
We the people.
Outlining at the moment.
But it's going to be banger.
So what's really the difference between creating a magic system and making fake science? It's how do you explain the whooshy whoosh? Is it magic or is it science? That's really it. Are you just going to say, oh, this is magical because you're tapping into the energies of the world, or because it's in your bloodline, or your soul's connected to it? Or is it, well, this is going to be scientific because of XYZ?
Yeah. I mean, I can see why people would wonder that, but it's like, it comes down to, can it be explained? Not explained, but can it be based in real life, or can it, like magic?
No, because fake science is not based in real life.
Oh, fake science. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, like midichlorians in Star Wars is technically fake science. So
love a good fake science.
It really just boils down to, what do you want to call it?
I have flying cars, which is a fake science. I don't know how they work. Don't need to know how they work, but they fly.
They have some sort of system.
I tried having scientific explanations for everything I wanted to put in my novel, but in the end it drove me crazy. I'm like, how does flying cars physically work? I don't know. So now I'm like, it's a soft science book. I don't need to write hard science. It's a space opera.
So yeah, here's another good thing. There is actually a sci-fi fantasy, or like fantasy science. Magitech is a good example of where it's technology that's fueled by magic and stuff. So
couldn't the Force in Star Wars technically be magic?
It was before they explained it as midichlorians. And then
okay. So that I haven't seen them, so excuse my ignorance. Man.
That's like, I haven't really seen most of them. I just have friends who are really, really into Star Wars, and I remember how upset they were when they were like, but they should have just not explained it. And I'm like, well, they didn't want magic in their sci-fi.
True. I've always
Okay,
thought of it as
so-
magic, but I'm not a Star Wars fan, so.
So yeah, we got to the answers with the world builders disease questions. I have a friend who had been world building for 3 years and has thousands of years of history. So did you want to answer it first? World builders disease?
Yeah, I think 3 years is too much for world building. I'll lead with that. I do not have thousands of years of history in my world. I do have like rough point for the last like 50, 100 years, and I think you kind of need to have an inkling of what's been going on. But I also have friends that's been stuck in world building for like 5 years. Like they have entire systems and star maps, and there's like history going back, and those things are important in the big picture. But I heard a comment or watched a video of someone saying that world building should be like an iceberg. So you see the tip, and then you have the bottom, which is under the sea. But the bottom is hollow, so even if you peek over the boat down into the water, you can still see the iceberg, but there's nothing inside it. And I think that's like where I land in the world building. Did that make sense? That's where I
Yeah.
land in the world building discussion. Like I have an iceberg, but it's hollow.
So I think that you should stop world building. I think you should only do as much world building as you need to tell your story. That
Yes.
like if you want to
Agreed.
go in depth into it, if you want to have those thousands of years of history, just do it like when you're not drafting or after it's done and stuff, because all you really need is what you need to tell your story. So like if you need to know that there was like thousands of years of war in your story, then know that there was thousands of years of war in your story and understand how that affects your character's current culture. But like don't sit there and be like, okay, I need to know what happened in these thousands of years of war, because that isn't nearly as important.
No. I was in a discussion the other day about someone world building for a court intrigue, and they were like, how much should I do? And if you're writing a court intrigue, then just build the court, build the ruling system, and know what's going on and what affects the court
Effects, yeah.
system. And then you can start writing. And as you write, you think of more stuff and you can plot that down. But world building shouldn't go at the expense of writing the book
Yes.
itself. Unless that's what you want to. Some people just want to world build, and that's perfectly cool.
Yeah.
But if you want to write and publish a book, I think 3 years and thousands of years of history is maybe too much. I don't know. If it's keeping you from doing the thing you want to do, it's probably not the right thing to do. Am I making any sense?
Yes, you are.
I'm sober. I'm sorry.
Would you be doing better if you were drunk?
I mean, probably yes.
Enough is when the reader can understand your story. I agree with this one.
Yes,
And
good.
Candy
Well
has
said,
a-
Audra. And Candy.
All right, so here's an opposite thing. I think I half-butted world building and then did about 87 drafts of a novel and realized it wasn't working, so now I redid all the world building and I have to do a full rewrite a decade later. World building is still important. You still need, like, you definitely still need to understand your world. You just, like I said, you need to know how those thousands of years of war affected your current country, but you don't need to know what happened during those thousands of years.
Agreed. I mean, like, I love world building, but if it goes at the expense of my writing time, I might as well just write the book and then world build next to it or after it, maybe. But as Sam said, you need enough world building to get you started, and then the road is made while you walk it.
And I see a lot of people who are echoing this sentiment.
Okay. So we're not crazy. Good to know.
Yeah. This is like the Star Wars argument: is it sci-fi or fantasy? It's sci-fi. It's a space opera. So says Wikipedia. I just deleted two still I'm basically famous. Yep. It's how you know you've made it.
Love you, CB.
Saying that mitochondrions explain away the force is like saying your car explains away the radio station. I am not 100% certain the sentiment here, but They were just saying that it not that it explained it away, just that it kind of takes away from what made the Force interesting, and that was just that it was mystical in a sci-fi world building for 3 years. That's a nope. Yep. Is professional world building a career? Maybe do that instead. It can be if you're a DM, or like you write
or if you do game
world
design or
stuff for tabletop gaming.
like gaming design, like computer games or video games.
I guess technically I've built for 10 years, but that's only because I world build as I write and as things become. Well, but you're writing. So the world building never stops. Like technically, it never stops because you like need to figure out more things as you draft and everything. But there are people who will only world build for a decade and they won't have an outline, they won't have a draft, they won't have anything except the world. I agree with that. I think a lot of world builders, they just really love world building, not necessarily storytelling. And so they're just procrastinating.
Agreed.
Oh, that's pretty cool. One of Gay Raven's critique partners is a game developer. So he's there to help me with the world building.
That's cool. Has he worked on anything like semi-famous or famous? Inquiring minds want to know. Me? I'm
We
that
want
inquiring
his
mind.
resume. Just
Yes.
post his resume in the chat.
Please, can you give me a season pass?
When it's unbelievable or it doesn't like make sense to what you're going for. It's just bad world building. If you can write, in all honesty, the best world building, the best worlds I have seen in fiction, people don't even realize how well built they are because they're just that immersed. It's just that, well done. So,
yeah.
My children are fighting.
It's like I played World of Warcraft for like a billion years back in the days, and the thing that irks me the most is when they have like desert zone, snow zone, jungle zone, desert zone, snow zone, and it doesn't make any sense like geographically. So
it says, do you think demons should have a limitation in regards to a magic system? I think that's too vague a question to genuinely answer because demons are different depending on the world and like the beliefs and everything.
Generally, any like magic system should have limitations. Same goes with like science fiction. Like technology should have limitations, and I think the limitations might as well be just as important as the abilities.
I want Satan to be all powerful. How dare you?
That's a half I want him to be like bad at cooking or something. I don't know, Sam. You can't have it all. Unless you build it yourself, then you can have whatever you want, to be fair.
I do what I want, my second piece of merch.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to chat just refreshed, so CB passive aggressively sent somebody a Jenna video. Love it. Here for it. World building as new scenes pop up always happens, especially if your characters start to guide the story and you end up somewhere you never outlined.
I don't know. I usually guide my characters where I want them to go.
If I realize that I haven't built up a section of a world where I planned, because like I'm writing an adventure, so my characters have to go to like different countries. I don't world build country 3 while they're in country 1. So I kind of get that from that.
Agreed. I have like 3 states that make up one big country, and I only have the like middle state planned, and then the north and the south gets featured in later books. So I'm like, I don't know, something goes on there, but I'm not sure why. I'll just put it on the back burner for now. So focus on that like one state where the story takes place.
So Mike says, as a DM, I can assure you players don't care about your world building. As a DM for over 15 years, I can assure you some players do really care about your world building. But it's just sometimes they go places that you don't want them to go and that you haven't world built, and other times they ignore rooms where you carefully crafted a monster spider because your sister's an arachnophobic and she saw spider webs and said nope, and you're like, bitch. But
Sounds
yes,
like you have something you want to talk about, Sam.
I will
In this
forever
whole
hold that
childhood
against her.
trauma.
Forever. Oh, that was unrelated. Ugh, it's refreshed again. I have to scroll up. Oh, he worked on Neverwinter. That's cool.
Oh, that's cool. I've actually played that.
Oh, and he works for Niantic. Pokemon Go.
I don't know what that. That's Pokemon Go creator.
Yes, Niantic makes
Okay.
Pokemon Go. I don't know if they've made anything else, to be honest. They might have.
Well, if they made Pokemon Go, they should be set
Huh?
by now. So
What's Ingress?
It's basically Pokemon Go before it was Pokemon Go.
They made pre-Pokemon
And
Go.
then Harry Potter Go, or whatever the fuck that's
we don't
Yeah,
talk
they've
about
made
Harry
other
Potter Go.
versions of. Apparently, we don't talk about that. I've enjoyed listening to your live stream, and I really want to come next week. But okay, well, give your family all the attention they need. Thank you for being here. We look forward to your return.
Toodles.
This mid-game at 9 we take any damage.
I think this is to the DM thing. There's people who don't care, and not all information is going to end up to the audience. There will be people who want to know more, but it lends itself to your story. Yeah. I think because, like, you, in my opinion, you need to put in enough world building for the story to be understood. And if you can sneak in cool details every now and there that are relevant, then go for it. Like if a character likes apples, and you can like sneak in the apple, like, oh yeah, I really love apple pie because, like, you know, in my mom's culture, who's from a different place than here, they like apple pie is one of their ancient traditions. And then like you've snuck in a little bit of world building that's relevant but not necessarily important. So, but like only if you can do it in ways like that. And there are a lot of people who really like, they read for the world building. That's what they're there for. So stuff like that. That's why there's Wikipedias dedicated to the worlds of stories and stuff. Kind of off topic, but I'm new here from Jenna's stream. Would you guys mind sharing with No, no one will ever find them
Please,
again.
Sam, more.
No. Okay, so I published and unpublished 2 books. I will make a video explaining all of that. However, I do have a short story up on my website, SamanthaLNasset.com. It's called Till Pizza Do Us Part. You can read it. Enjoy.
It will make you hungry and angry.
I've gotten many threats for food cravings and upset.
We don't like upset. But you should definitely check it out. I have published nothing except like a short story in high school in a church magazine. I can send you the link if you want.
Yes, do it. Do it. Go find it.
I think it's only in paperback. This was like in mid 2000s. Was the internet invented then? I don't know. I live in the countryside.
Right. I recently wrote a backstory for Big Bad Evil Guy of the campaign, who is a great villain. Yet that's not world building, though. That just means your players weren't invested in your villain's background, which is different. That's story. Also, as Matt said, one group does not equal everyone. I've been in various gaming groups, and as a DM, this is like kind of off topic, but as a dungeon master, especially if you DM for different kinds of groups, it's really important to get a feel for what your players like. Some players are more story invested, some are more character invested, some are more world invested. So I know that if I'm going to run a game for a specific group, I can be really lazy about the world building because they're not going to ask a lot of questions. They're just murder hobos. They just want to go kill everything, and that's fine. But I have another group that if I do not have a lot of world building, or at least can't pull facts out of my ass really fast, they're not going to have as good a time. So it's just about being flexible and knowing what your players want and what they like. I also have a friend who will just troll me and ask me random ass questions to see if I can pull an answer out of my ass, and I'm like, sir,
I
your
am the
character's gonna go
bullshitting
off a cliff.
mistress. You should know.
That's it. Get the cockatrices. Yeah, see, like Chris, he really wants to like know about the previous tournaments and their winners.
I want all the laurels.
I also want all the lore, Chris.
He said laurels. He wants like the list. He wants the history book with all of the previous laurels in there, just so he can look at them.
An appendix, is that what the kids call it?
Hey, welcome. What's
Hey,
up?
Dania. I don't know. Lord of the Rings, isn't that an appendix, or is that what you have in your tummy? Appendix.
Index?
Index? I forget. I'm very bad with words. I'm a writer, I promise. Appendage. Something like that. I don't know. Chat, help. Help.
There is an appendix, and I just don't remember what it's for. Now I'm trying
Like all the
murder
pronouncing
people.
of the words and families and all that.
Yes. All right. Sailor Twilight would love a link to your thing. You should Google find that.
It's in Norwegian, sadly, and it's.
They could
not
put it
good.
through Google Translate. That'll go well.
Oh yeah. Well, to be fair, I can only get up. But I
That's fair.
thank you for your concern. I'll send you a link to my new book when it's published. 2030. Here we come.
You can go stalk his social medias. They're all linked down below.
Follow me on
excuse me.
Instagram for beautiful pictures of Norwegian nature and people you don't know.
New live stream topic: how to DM. I could do that topic. I do.
I've never
I
played a
have.
tabletop
15.
game, so I could not have helped you.
That's fine. That's step one. How to run a game like Sam. Always have cockatrices in a closet. Chat, I just saw a thing. What are tropes to avoid when writing a dark fantasy? So, mildly triggering. So, just everybody knows that up. Rape as a backstory or as a motivation, especially for female characters, is something that I am just so tired of seeing, especially in fantasy.
Over
because,
it.
Yeah.
In any genre.
Fair, but we were asked about dark fantasy. So yeah, there's that. People do it because they're like, oh well, it's realistic, and I'm like, oh well, it's a fantasy. You control the world, so it doesn't have to be. It's not even actually realistic to real history in every culture. So, yes, Jenna, the glossary, maybe.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I'm pretty sure appendix is in your tummy, though. I'm a nurse, so I should know this. But
they're up for the challenge of translating for you.
Well, they won me $100, so 16-year-old Stig is happy.
I wrote a background of a whip about a magic battle that takes place in another dimension. Do you have any advice? I'm kind of stuck. So you wrote a magic battle in a pocket dimension? What kind of advice are you asking for exactly?
On world building, I guess, since this is a world building stream.
Pocket dimensions are pretty I don't want to say common because they're not common, but I see them semi-frequently in some of the video games I play. So just make sure the other hold on, I just had a thought. So to keep in mind, does the other dimensions like magic or anything work the same way, or is it different? Would like your characters go from a world with no magic and then they're battling into another dimension and now suddenly they have magic, so they're accidentally shooting fireballs at people?
I read a book like that.
See, every idea has already been taken.
Darker shade of magic, different shade of magic, cloak of shadow magic, something of magic.
I
it has
no
like
idea.
5 layers of London on top of each other, and one was our world and one was magic, and I don't know.
That sounds interesting. I've never seen. Every idea has already been done, y'all.
Yeah, every story has been done. It's just a matter of how you want to execute it.
Thank God for autocorrect. Yes. Which let's talk the D&D one, maybe. Well, it looks like a D&D one would be fairly popular, so might do it. Why? Kidding. Hope you
People
have
hot
fun.
Enjoy socializing.
Appendix is appendix is defined as the section at the end of a book that gives additional information on the topic explored in the context of the text, per dictionary.com. Thank you. I stand dictionary.com.
Does that mean I was right? That's what I care about.
I think so. I forgot
Okay.
why you were trying to think of the word, if I'm honest.
Something behind the book for your book? I'm not sure. It was relevant like 10 minutes ago.
See, that's what I thought you were gonna mention in your stream. So, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't mention it. Also, Stig and appendix is part of the. So it's both.
See?
Yeah.
I had vague information about that retained in my head.
My brain was like, this. I know it's a homophone, but I can't remember for what things. So. Now it's just people explaining appendixes.
And standing a D&D talk.
Yes, let's show some love and support to our dictionary.comer. Yes, there's so much hate to that. People are saying a darker shade of magic.
Yes.
They think.
Thank you. I think I said that. One of the
That was one of
things
the
I
things
said.
that you
Yeah.
rambled about, yes. Or rambled out,
Excuse
not
you.
about. That is the term for saying words continuously. I saved my because I forgot it's not. Oh no, Sophie.
Shit, Sophie, sorry to disappoint you.
Well, I guess Sophie and CB get to be on my D&D Let's Talk whenever I do that.
I can moderate it.
Dungeons and Dragons. Tabletop gaming. Something I haven't done in a year or so, but I
Never
did for
tried it.
half my life. It's like training arenas is Hunter Battle, like in Ruby. The battle arena changes environment in game, like sure the flag with my monsters attacking them. Then I would just say watch things or read things with that in them. I haven't written anything like that, so I don't have any specific advice. Do you, Stig?
No, it doesn't sound like anything I've read or written. Sorry, can't help you. But just make sure it matters, like generally make sure it matters to the characters, I guess.
Pretend I shared them both. That's my favorite both gif is the Eldorado one.
It was a good one. I haven't seen that movie in ages.
Right, somebody's helping someone else. How would you go about writing a book about a dragon that isn't too common? Speaking of dragons, I don't know necessarily. Is this just a book, or is this just a dragon, or like are the dragons a pet? Do we ride them? Are they shapeshifters? There's a lot of different ways to go about writing about a book about a dragon. It just all depends on what you want your plot to be. Do you want your dragon to be a sentient like character?
There's been like a couple of I do think I prefer like the more non-stereotypical dragons, so like not Smaug. We've had enough of Smaug. I'm over it. I mean, he's a good villain, but it's been done. But I read a couple of years ago, I think it's called His Majesty's Dragon, which is a historical alternative romance like Napoleon War, but with dragons, and it was just chef's kiss. It was so good. I love that.
It's a
really...
fantasy. It's not a romance.
Did I say romance?
Yes.
Historical alternative. What I meant.
Yeah, it's an alternative history.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Not a romance. Between a man and a dragon, that would be weird. That's another category. But it is very good. I did like it. So I prefer that kind of trope with dragons instead of the greedy treasure-seeking one.
I like when dragons are both like when they're mounts and stuff, or my brain just went kapoo, or when they're like tiny little pets.
Oh, that's cute.
I'm not particularly into when they're like shapeshifters anymore because they're normally like overly. They're normally just Smog as a person, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, we get that enough without dragons.
Yeah. But everyone should read His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novak, I think, wrote it. No, I know wrote it. I don't think I know. So check that out if you want a good dragon book recommendation.
Ooh, yes, How to Train Your Dragon is a great one. This too, like in Merlin, the BC show.
Haven't seen it.
But so we've we've answered a lot of like fantasy world building questions. Does anybody want to talk about sci-fi? Or has this revealed who my audience is? Dun dun
Fantasy
dun.
stands. Please, any sci-fi questions? I do also like sci-fi building, but I like it. What's that called? Spaghetti Western sci-fi. That is just like when we're talking Firefly. That's my element of sci-fi. I love that. Not too keen on like when you get to the military science fiction and the hard science fiction.
Yes. I'm reading chat a bit. Okay, so what are you laughing at? What? Well, I was reading chat, seeing what's going on down there. So, well, somebody wants to know, how do you make a monster sci-fi?
I actually have a monster sci-fi, not a monster per se. So what I did is, like in my world, humans fled the dying Earth and brought a lot of like genetic stuff with them. So they recreated this creature in laboratories, and they kind of accidentally escaped these laboratories. So I have like these huge hell pigs kind of things. So like in ancient dinosaur times, I guess, on Earth there was this huge hell pigs that would like kill people and not people, because they were no people, but kill other animals and stuff. So I think basing your monsters on science instead of fantasy is the way to go. So I have these. I think Stranger Things is a good way, but is that magic? No, that's science fiction. What would you classify Stranger Things as?
Baby, what's Stranger Things? Genre.
Horror?
It's horror, technically.
I guess there's some sci-fi elements in there.
So it's kind of like horror sci-fi. But horror often has fantasy-ish or science elements in it.
Got that
So
Lovecraftian upside down world thing.
horror kind of gets a pass. It can do like whatever it wants, and it's still just horror.
Okay, then what's that? My Name is Alice and I Remember Everything. What's that called? Resident Evil is another good example of like science fiction monsters. And that fucking game I hate, Silent Hill, also a good way to make science fiction monsters. Is that science fiction or is that horror?
We're gonna just well, Resident Evil's horror too. So
But
look into horror, and you'll see how to choose science monsters to like.
What about the best one?
What best one?
Aliens.
Also a horror. Well, no, technically that's a sci-fi thriller, isn't it?
Just build it in a lab and it's a sci-fi monster. That's your answer. Build it in a lab.
So, build it in a lab, make it an alien. Like, technically, you could also just make it native to whatever planet you are and just say that it's a monster. You're writing sci-fi, so
Star Trek does that a lot.
Yeah, it's like back in the day, you know, Komodo dragons, they were monsters. People thought giraffes were unicorns. So it's like, or at least that's an ongoing theory, is that like somebody from Europe visited Africa, saw a giraffe, and then through word of mouth, the description of a giraffe and a rhino kind of got mixed together, and unicorns.
I want to make a giraffe rhino. Just a chunky boy with long legs and a long neck.
Hell Pig sold me. Maybe I have a thing for pigs because TSC got me with those too.
Oh, those pigs in TSC was creepy though.
Yes. But yes, like I spent many a years just trying to like when I was younger, I was like, the difference between sci-fi and fantasy is that fantasy has a happy ending and sci-fi doesn't. that was all the fantasy and sci-fi I had been exposed to, and then I realized no, it's not that different. And if you like look at a lot of the tropes in sci-fi and a lot of the tropes in fantasy, it really just boils down to what the creator wants to call it.
Agreed.
And aesthetics. That's the biggest difference.
Agreed. Also, I'm currently reading a lot of fantasy while writing science fiction, so I don't know if like the fantasy genre bleeds over into my science fiction. But as I said, I'm like more interested in space operas and the soft stuff than I am in like hardcore science fact. I don't know how a spaceship flies, it flies. And that's okay with me.
It goes vroom vroom. My first Titan AE is a good one. The Girino. Yes.
Gerino.
With narwhal horns. I write thriller, but started paying more attention to sci-fi and world building after a crazy apocalyptic dream a few years ago. It is fun to flesh it out, but still above my abilities. Yeah, the appeal with horror is that like what people tend to be most afraid of is like what they can't explain or what they don't understand. And just the unknown is what a lot of like what messes with a lot of people's heads. So having like that's why it's got a lot of fantasy elements to it, like since the creation of horror essentially. And then as science like developed and stuff, it's like, oh well, but what if humans fuck up, and what if humans like create these horrible things? And then that's kind of how horror and sci-fi became a thing. And I could do a let's talk on horror.
Horror is a good genre, but I'm very scared easily, and it's not even about the scare itself, it's the anticipation of being scared, which is the worst for me, especially for and jump scares. I don't fuck with that. I'm sorry, but I'm no thank you, ma'am. I don't
there's
like
there's an entire subgenre of suspense because a lot of people that the anticipation. Yeah. Ah, it's reloaded again.
Damn you, StreamYard.
Let's be honest. I don't know how cell phones work, but they do. I love that. Yes, I don't see why not.
Hunger Games is technically a no, it is a science fiction, not technically. Well, technically too, but it is a science fiction, isn't it? Why science fiction or dystopian?
I think dystopian. If we're not in horror, I'm not that well versed in subgenres. I will be completely honest. I know it's a dystopian, but I don't remember if dystopian falls under sci-fi or just spec fic.
Yeah, I would say Hunger Games is a science fiction, but I'm not the leading authority on this matter. But I think it is.
Is it? I saw. Is it paranormal? Is paranormal when dealing with ghosts more sci-fi or fantasy? It's horror. The paranormal is a subgenre of horror, although it can also be in crossover genres. So you can have like contemporary fantasy will often deal with paranormal things.
Paranormal romance is its own thing. Crossover in a crossover.
As we have discussed with romance, it has no home. It just wanders
Belongs
about.
to the people.
It just goes wherever. Those clowns from space, man. Yeah.
I think I missed something. Yeah.
So
science fiction can be set anywhere. Agreed.
I did actually just do a video on genres that breaks down the genre umbrella. I posted it last week. And in that video, I also say that once we get past the primary umbrellas, I'm like, because I don't write those genres. But they mix and match, and it's messy. It's so messy. A horror let's talk would be fantastic. I can't sit through much of it, all too easily scared. I see that everyone's like, yes, a horror one, but I'm like gone after 10 minutes. It's fine.
Have a short stream, a flash stream, is that something?
Just a micro stream.
Yeah. How'd you feel about building worlds based on real life things?
So contemporary world building or like
Let's just stick to fantasy and science fiction, because or do whatever you want, Sam. This is your stream. Who am I to dictate what you tell?
So like when I don't like writing about Earth. I live here. Yeah. I do, however, love writing contemporary fantasy because then I can like just make it Earth, but the way I want it to be. So I think it gives you like a solid foundation because it's something that everyone can kind of relate to, and then you just change it up a bit and they're like, oh, well, that's how things are going to be. They've got werewolves. Oh yeah.
But like if you make like in your series, fantasy series, what do you, or not in your particular, but how do you feel about like borrowing from other cultures and
I think it needs to be
like
done
that?
respectfully and with a lot of research, and to make sure that that particular culture doesn't really mind being borrowed from, because there are some that like straight up just say do not, and if they say do not, you should do not.
Agreed.
So, but I also being inspired by different ones I think is important to make your world feel believable and realistic. I'm trying to get past all of the question or the things about horror. So I agree and both disagree with this. For example, urban fantasy has a very strict and specific requirement. It has to take place in a densely populated city. And if it doesn't take place in a densely populated city, it does not technically count as urban fantasy. So if you write one about like suburbia, it's technically not urban fantasy, but at the same
Suburban
time,
fantasy.
suburban fantasy. But at the same time, like, I'm not about to rules lawyer anyone on it. It's just, that's one of those things. Like, if a romance does not have a happy ending, it's not a romance, it's a love story. So it's just like little things like that. But at the same time, I'm not about to go fight somebody on what their genre is. I'm not about to tell them that they can't do this or that they can't do that. I'm just speaking from a technical standpoint of definitions. And it's like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, your world doesn't have magic, so it's not fantasy. And that's not true. As long as a story does not take place on Earth, it can be a fantasy. And then if you get into the subgenres of fantasy, contemporary fantasy specifically is fantasy that takes place on Earth. So it can be muddy and contradicting, which is just why it's important to understand what genre you're writing in before you write in that genre.
Agreed.
Which is also why when it's like, is it sci-fi or is it fantasy? It's like creator intent. If you find it hard to talk in the 1700s or 1800s, can you make it futuristic to be able to speak easier in the story? I think you should have the language, the dialogue written in a way that's digestible for a modern audience, and it should be fine.
Yeah, you can use like modern English in the 1700 story. In my opinion, I get like when people insist on writing super old English in classic fantasy, for example, I'm like, oh, I don't have the brain power for this.
Hold on. I'm my mods were saying a thing, and so I was checking in on what they were saying.
Distracted by a little cute kitty too.
Oh, she's here.
Patron saint of streams. Hello, Artemis.
So I see somebody saying something about book 2 drama. Here's the thing. You're going to be so very disappointed. I don't know anybody. I don't know any of the drama. I don't know any of the tea. And even if I did, I ain't about that life. So sorry, not my thing.
I just know Sam and she's very undramatic. I'm the dramatic one here.
Don't lie. That's the tea. That's the tea. He trying to lie with her. I'm super dramatic. You are more so though.
Yeah, I think it's like a matter of perspective, isn't it? In our case.
Because I did research and I'm trying to write, and yeah, just make it digestible for a modern audience, and you're fine. I feel like this is going to now become an unofficial thing. Oh shit, where did it go? Matt was, yeah, that's just going to become a thing now.
Wishy-washy. I mean, you gotta get merch, Sam. You're sleeping on that. You're sleeping on that tag.
That's my legacy now. Is like in 30 years. In 30 years, writers are going to be like, oh yes, how's the whooshy whoosh explained in this classic literature?
And the new teenage writers will be like, what's wishy-woosh? I never heard that term before.
Whoosh? Sounds weird. Yes, I do. Yeah, for everybody who's new, this is our unofficial co-host, Artemis. She,
Patron
in
saint of streams.
yes, in exchange for sitting in my lap, she lets me do these things. So,
Just
as
want
you
you to
can
get one of
see,
the dogs to do that,
totally
like
cool.
one of the big ones.
No, if I did that, they'd be like, love, love, lick your face, lick your face. They would never be so chill. I would, just because there's like so much like just different things and bad history behind doing that for specific ones. There's like tropes with it and all. I would suggest heavily researching. I figured it would. I wanted to see if there was. Oh wait, there's the question I missed.
The sun's still out.
Yeah, see, it's fantasy though, so they could just talk in a modern. Why not?
Yeah. And also, if the dialogue is noticeable, you're doing it right to me. But if I have to stop and think of like, how dotheth readeth this sentence, milady, then I'm out.
See, I feel like posh English makes it feel old without actually being historically accurate. I agree with that too. Artemis wants an arty kiss. Yes. Yeah, it's that's why also writing accents in dialogue, you gotta be careful about that, because sometimes it just makes it unreadable and you don't want your readers to struggle to understand what your characters are saying.
Don't
There's
give up.
apparently, I don't
Okay.
know. Somebody was just asking about it. I'm out of the loop. I don't know.
We are the loop, Sam.
I will when she returns. I just see love for Wooshy Woosh. Cece says thanks to everybody. So everybody, thank you on behalf of Cece.
Don't give up, CC. You can do it. You can live the dream.
How does being a mom affect your writing? Not the literal act of writing, but the inner workings process voice. It doesn't. I wrote for a decade almost before I had children. The only thing that it does affect is the literal act of writing, because they interrupt me a lot, or I don't have time to do it, or I don't have energy and all of that stuff. But as for my actual like writing, I don't see why that would affect it. Like, I was a person before I was a mom. I'll be a person for the rest of my life. Shocking. Hey, hey!
Hello, Catherine.
Artemis appreciates this. She's an attention hoe. You'll see her in the back of many of my videos.
In this house we stand Artemis.
People are like, isn't there always drama? Mm-hmm.
There's always drama, but I'm not in the
What
loop about
about
it.
writing dialogue slang such as gonna, what you doing, and gotcha? I think stuff like that in dialogue is fine as long as it's, digestible. So that's just how people speak.
Yeah, and make it like deliberate and conscious choice. A deliberate and conscious choice, so use it with purpose. But that's just for any dialogue though, really. It should mean something.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm busy. No, you can no, you wanted it. Come here. You were pulling on my elbow, so you wanted it. She's returned. Here you go, CB.
Aw.
So I just saw a talking point we probably should have addressed like an hour ago, and that's what is world building exactly?
Oh, true. Should I just take my take?
For some reason. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I plan a novel, I have 3 points to try to keep in mind. So that is characters and world building and plot. And to me, they're like 3 pillars of a good story. So you should like you have your characters, and then the world they play around in, or you play around in with them, is the world building. So it makes up everything around them, and then the plot is just like the sugar on top.
No.
Oh, actually, the world building is the sugar on top. I would say the plot is the
The main
sides
point.
of vegetables.
Okay, so I agree. The world building is it's the setting. It's everything that makes up the setting. It's the cultures, it's the history, it's the world, it's the fashion, it's the way the characters it's why the characters interact the way they do. So, which is why it's important. It's just it should blend into the background seamlessly, which is the great thing about good world building is you should just not have to think about it.
Takes a lot of
But,
work to make it go seamlessly, though.
Yes, and it should also be intriguing. So
You can literally do anything you want, so make it interesting.
yes. All right, hold on. I see some things in here.
I see Sophie standing grapes, which is a method of building your world, which I love. That's what I use for my novel.
So Lacey says one thing that changed after I became a mom was I steer clear of names that resemble my kids' names and their close friends. See, I don't think that's a mom specific thing because I know people who just don't use the same names as their siblings and their parents and stuff.
Yeah, I've had characters, and then I met people that I absolutely couldn't stand with that name, so I had to change the character name. I don't know if you do that.
Oh, no, that doesn't bother me. I have a character named Sabrina. My mother's name is Sabrina. I can completely disconnect name associations. So.
Oh. Well then, you're a better person than I am, Sam.
I think most people, I think 99% of people are the way you are. I'm looking for comments. Bye. Sleep well.
Bye.
Yes, I agree. Like air.
Like cell phones, they work, but you don't know how.
This is slightly unrelated, but thanks to you and Jenna for your streams tonight. I've gotten so much writing done, and I'm on a. Aw, thank you. You're very welcome.
We do love Jenna and Sam.
We'll never name a character after their brother. Yes. Which I wanted to bring up what world building is because sometimes I see people who will be like, oh, well, this book had no world building in it. But the book actually has a lot of really rich world building. It just has no info dumps on the history of the world. So it's that's not the only part of world building that matters.
Yeah, I think if you notice world building, it's usually, well, I can only speak for me. If I notice world building, it's usually for the wrong reasons. I'm like, that's not how that works. Or I read a novel, and especially with medical stuff, because I'm a nurse. So I'm like, that's not how that works. I'm sorry, ma'am, or mister, or person. You should have done your research. But it was something, someone got an injury, and it was like, it was bleeding so much. And I'm like, oh, so they just lost all their blood and then some. Good job. How did they keep walking? Because it was like, oh, they were bleeding several liters or pints, as you say.
We've lost all
And I'm like, okay, so that person shouldn't be able to walk, but here they are fighting on, brave soldier. So that stuff sticks out if you don't do your research when it comes to world building.
Oh, so yeah, I too forgot that grapes was for world building. What's it stand for? Geography, religion, architecture,
architecture,
people. Sophie, what does grapes stand
politics,
for? Politics,
economics, and society or social.
Yeah, there we go.
Thingamajigs. That's a technical term, social thingamajigs.
How much research should I do if I don't know the subject that is the base of my world? A lot. A lot. like until you feel you are extremely comfortable with what you're basing your world on, and then research more.
I should be able to ask you, and you should be able to tell me within 2 minutes. That's the extent of Nord.
Do you know how phones work?
Yeah, you type in a number and then it calls. Well, who calls people? This is 2020. You text people, don't you?
I call people. How would you go about describing your world when it comes time to do it? Also, would you recommend describing a place in the beginning of the story? So I write third person deep, which means that if my character doesn't notice it, it's not likely to be in my narrative.
Same.
So,
Mine is also third person deep.
so I would describe a place as they notice things, describe a place as they walk or as they're traveling. If they're riding a horse, they can be like, the horse's gait was uneven because the road's that fucked up, and like a orange leaf flew in front of their face because it's the seasons are changing and it's been a hard summer, so they welcome autumn's cool embrace or some shit like that. Don't, at least not, I don't like stories like this. You can if you want, you can if it's your thing, but my advice is to not be like, oh, well, they were riding down, or they were riding on a stallion that was bred by a champion mare, and so they had very muscular flanks to carry all of the shit that we're carrying because we're princess of the third kingdom of the second country of the world, and there are coniferous trees on the side of the road that don't change with the seasons ever, so they're just like stagnant and permanent. And then I'm all like, okay, what does any of that matter? Why do I care about all that? So that's the differences I would say between do and don't.
Yeah, and you should never start with world building in your story. That's the big note for me. Like if I read something and it takes me 2 pages to read through like the world's history and stuff like that, I'm like, ugh, I'm bored. Where's the drama? Where's the action?
Where's the drama?
Yeah, because I've read a lot of fantasy novels, especially like of a certain type of author where they like info dump a lot in the beginning. So if you have like 2 prologues and then a forward and then they say chapter 0 and then the story itself begins.
Oh my
I mean,
god.
I've tapped out long before that. I think I read again one of Brandon Sanderson's book, Way of Kings or something, and I just had like 2 forwards and prologues, and like by the time I got to chapter 1, I was exhausted and I didn't know anyone. So, and it was all just a set of world building, which I'm not like. I don't need that. But that's just my preference, though.
Someone recommended that my first chapter should be all world building, and then I should introduce my MC. No, don't listen to them.
Listen to Sam. Listen, Linda. Listen. You should definitely just introduce your character right away, and then introduce the world building as they go along and experience it.
Yes, I agree with that. I read a book when they pulled the plug on a person in the hospital and let them die, and then took them out to harvest organs. What?
That's not how that works. So yeah, if you notice stuff, then for the wrong reasons, then it's probably not.
Here you go. Ninjas cracked the code. The definitive way to build
Maybe
your world.
water is not like that's an existential component of life.
See, here's the thing. I don't much have preference for world building or world builders, but I think Jenna and Ren Chu Pico are great world builders for their stories, so I'm going with those two.
I would also have to say Jenna. I love the universe, like whatever it's based on and whatever things we're introduced to, and it's like the right pacing and the right amount and the right spots. It's just French kiss. And also Josh Whedon builds a lot of good worlds for me, not in novels necessarily, but I really like the sci-fi stuff he does. It's like my type of sci-fi.
I don't know a ton of his stuff. I like know
Like
of him passively.
Firefly and stuff like that.
Oh yes, Firefly was good.
Yeah.
I don't know about starting this exactly. Oh, geography, religion, achievements, art, and otherwise, politics, economics, social. There we go. I do all the things in grapes. I just forget what grapes stands for. Yeah, 100% agree. You want to make sure that you know as much as possible on the subject you're writing on. Yep. That's fair. And if you're building, you want to make sure to know as much as possible. Okay, so there's a difference between believable and realistic. I'm not sure as to what that was answering, but something can be realistic and not be believable, or something can be believable and not be realistic, because the thing like sometimes life is stranger than fiction. So it's really important that your readers believe what's going on, not necessarily that it's realistic. Because like people will accept dragons, that they're not realistic.
What? But agreed, it should be believable, not realistic.
They might have dragons in Norway. I don't know.
Is there any
Don't live
famous
there.
dragons in Norway? Oh, that's the Midgard swarm that's gonna swallow the world one day. That's fun.
That's something I would legit write in my outline. Just be like, so there you go, everybody. It's how Sam outlines.
It's a pretty good outline, though.
I'm going to plagiarize that entire. That could work for a sarcastic character, noticing the weather.
The winter's cool embrace or whatever it was. I've already forgotten it.
Oh no, it reload. Yes, I love Jenna. She's one of my best friends ever. And I will always gush about her when I have the chance, because she's amazing.
She's alright.
Sir, we will fight.
For legal reasons, I am obliged to inform that I was a joke. We absolutely love Jenna in this house. Please don't kill me, Sam. Don't disown me. I love you very much too. Thank you.
Good. So how do you feel about resurrection in fantasy, Sam? Say if it's something that's a rarity in the world. And I feel like it depends. Because like if you're gonna kill one of my favorite characters and then you're gonna like revive them a book later, I'm gonna be like, excuse you, you made me hurt for no reason. But also, if you don't revive them, like if you revive them too fast, then there is no emotional impact. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not.
You do you.
I don't super fuck with resurrections either. I'm like, if it died, it died. I made my peace with it. I moved on, and don't bring it back. Like the next episode, Supernatural. I'm looking at you. I'm not here for it.
Supernatural there's death doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I take that back. If it's not Sam and Dean,
yeah,
they will die. But
yeah.
otherwise,
I mean, death should have consequences, or else I'm just gonna not care. And also, but I did like it in Game of Thrones, the way they did it there, because that made sense for the universe. And I also know that the show-wise, they skipped on a lot of earlier resurrections to make this one more impactful. But I still don't super fuck with resurrections. I mean, if it's dead, leave it dead.
they could probably be done well, but I'm more for like when the ancient evil is resurrecting and you're like, oh shit, we gotta stop that. So in an episode, see this here, that's good though, because I love when stuff like that happens. Well, I think that depends. Like, if it smells really bad or really good, just It all
Should
just
use all your
depends
5
on
senses.
execution.
6 senses? 5 senses? How many do we
However
have?
many senses your character has.
True.
Thank you. Yes, everybody, like the live stream, because I always forget. I haven't read it yet. It's in the stack of 180-500 books on my shelves. That's a mood.
Bump it to the top. What?
Excuse me. Well, there's also this one, geography, politics, economics, religions, societal, intellectual, science, and shit, art.
But what sounds cooler? Grapes or beer? I don't know, Audra. You make the call.
Persia.
Yeah, that's what I think. Berger.
So fun story, world building for my story. I write an urban fantasy series where supernatural beings are the result of a virus. So I did a ton of research on pandemics and how the CDC works. But isn't that topical?
It's very in the wind these days, I've heard.
Sarah, where I might want one for as a pet or research purposes. I need to know. So apparently, the CDC is prepared for zombies.
Good, good. So are we. Well, I'll be first to die anyway, though. That's why I've picked up running, so I can outrun them. Cheers.
For legal reasons. He means so I don't murder him in his sleep. I mean, what? I never would. He's my CP.
I mean, I'm sure you could find a new CP.
We do not actually. We met about 2 years ago through Cyborg Central, which is her
2
writing
years?
group. Yeah, about. We met around the time TSC came out.
What is
So-
time?
No, me and Jenna.
Are you
are
Oh,
whom.
God. Jesus Christ. I was like, 2 years ago? How old was I? Was I born 2 years ago?
I think, at least based on Mike's previous comments of how that conversation was going. Stig and I met earlier this year. So,
That's
was it
more
this
like
year?
it.
We don't even remember. But it
I
was
think
some.
I joined last year, but I wasn't very active.
Yeah, so.
Who's older?
Who's older? Who?
Artemis or Eros?
Artemis is 2 weeks older than Eros.
Bye.
Oh, no, wait. Eros is 2 weeks older than Artemis, but we got Artemis first. My husband was asking about our cats. So, but yeah. So Stig and I met earlier this year, and we just hit it off. And Jenna and I met 2 years ago, and we hit it off and became fast friends. And so now everybody now knows this history between me and Stig and me and Jenna. Covering all the bases. I think dead characters should stay dead.
Agreed, Catherine.
Unless we're bringing them back as an... Oh, God, that just reminded me of something. So, one of my writing buddies when I was a teen, we were writing Zelda fan fiction, and he had this one character that I didn't like much in the first story, but in the second story he became my favorite character, and I was like, oh man, this is my favorite character. And then the very next chapter he dies.
That's
And
when you
then
know people are about to die, when you start liking them.
And then 2 chapters later he comes back as a zombie minion of the bad guy, and I'm like, how dare you do this to me? But that's actually a really good plot thing.
Yeah. I have characters that I introduce and make super likable just because I know they're gonna die for the sake of the plot in a few chapters.
Stig is my dude. I don't meet tons of sci-fi people, so everyone I meet becomes my See, you got a dude. Oh yes, our cats' names are Artemis, Eros, Freyr, and Boulder. We have 4.
We have the entire pantheon soon. Get more.
Those are different pantheons.
I know. You can get more.
No, we're done.
Just imagine having 28 cats or something. I'm here for it.
Yes. You made a face that Jenna laughed at, and I don't know what it was.
Thanks. Grew it myself. I feel you're just trying to antagonize me, Gay Raven. You know my hatred
Oh.
for seagulls. It's publicly known. Seagulls are not cool.
Yeah, they were. They're pretty bad at it too. Is Stig single asking for a friend?
Sorry, I'm taken by death.
You're Deadpool now?
Oh, is that a thing? Sorry.
Well, yeah, Deadpool has a romance with death since he can't actually die. So
Ah.
half of Stig's brain lives in Ohio and he hates it.
Explains a lot of my character traits, to be fair. Love you,
Uh,
Jason Matt.
Do you have politics and world building? That is,
Yes.
yeah, that's Stig's favorite part. I
Mm.
do, because it is a necessary evil, because cultures have politics.
You don't like politics or body of
Uh,
government?
So it depends. Political intrigue, already established politics, those can interest me, but like, I don't want to make it. I do, because I need to, but yeah.
I mean, you think politic would be a... Oh. I don't know. It's because I talk funny? Is that rude to Irish people? I love Irish people, I'm sorry. I have many Irish friends. 2 at least.
I
But no,
feel
this is
like
just my Norwegian accent.
I think I should give you a look for my friend Shane who lives in Ireland, but I also don't think he'd actually care. So
But yeah, I love politics.
she
Same,
also
Jess.
is it Wade? Is his actual name Wade, or am I thinking of Slade?
Oh god, I thought her son was named Deadpool. Sorry, I flashed out. I flashed out for 2 seconds there. I'm like, that's an interesting choice of name. But yeah, Wade, I think, is his real name or
Yeah.
human name, whatever you call it.
Secret
You didn't.
identity.
Yeah.
That's how I am. I love reading political intrigue, but right? Yeah, Wade. Haha.
Okay,
Wade.
so his name is Wade, not Deadpool.
Yeah, Wade Wilson. Yeah, because it's like there's Wade Wilson and then Slade Wilson, right?
Who's Slade Wilson?
The guy Deadpool parodies. That
I know
one.
nothing about
Deathstroke.
superheroes.
I was like, I can't remember. Yeah. Yeah, Deathstroke is Slade Wilson, and then Deadpool is Wade Wilson. Writing a what you mean a romance about death? I know this is a let's talk about world building, but I'm intrigued. Thanos. Deadshot. No, not Deadshot. Deadshot's different. So, little comic history for everybody. DC and Marvel like to copy each other all the time, and sometimes it's even hard to remember which version of which hero came first. But Deadpool was a parody of Deathstroke that actually turned out to be super popular and kind of surpasses Deathstroke in notoriety now. So that's just a funny thing to know. All right. So back to world building. How would you go about building a Greek mythological world if that's a valid question to ask? Just because that's fine. How'd I go about it? Probably just like look into some of the ancient Greek traditions and like why they thought certain beliefs, and then like mix that into the world building.
Yeah, I was super obsessed with Greek mythology when I was a kid, so I love it. I think, as you said, I would just research, because a lot of history is already written, if that makes sense. So you could probably pull
Yeah.
out some really good plot points from like old legends and stuff.
And you could also like do your own thing, like have a tribe of maidens that are like Artemis, excuse me, Artemis is their patron goddess, and they're just like, they do all of the hunting and everything, and maybe pair them off with like Spartans. So you have like that going on or something.
Yeah,
Well, there
just do
could be ways to
research.
do it. Yeah.
Read a lot of Greek mythology. I love a good mythology retelling, though.
If that's the case, then why are they good and bad when it comes to... Hold on, why are what good and bad when it comes to movies and shows? I missed a thing because we went up. No, I think I just missed a thing. What do you prefer in world building, cultures, politics, science? Is there one thing you look for more than the others? Culture and fashion.
I like it all, but if I had to choose, like, yeah, cultures, I love, like, when they give just a little bit of information about a certain aspect, like a certain kind of food that means something special, or a certain kind of clothing piece that means something special. I think that's really cool.
I just realized earlier when I said my two favorite world builders were Jenna and Reen. Both of them discuss fashion and the symbolism of fashion in their stories.
See, there you go. You have a type. Or as far as world building go.
The preference.
Do you have anything like that
Most of us.
in your
Anything
novel?
like what? Like, oh yes, definitely. There will always be fashion. That's one of those things where it's just like I like it, so there will be a lot.
That makes sense since you're creating it, I guess.
Yeah. Like for example, my shadow people, they wear like they wear a fitted like a not like battle suit, but kind of like battle suit, just layer of armor, and then over that they wear a looser thing so that it both protects them but also obscures their movements.
Okay. Shadow people. Pew pew.
And because there's a magic blessing that they can get, one that has a tattoo on the chest and one that has a tattoo on the back, and these marks cannot be covered or the magic will like burn them.
Okay.
So they're like outfits for those who have those powers are like designed around not covering those tattoos.
Okay. See, that I like. That's a cool way of doing it. Like when clothing has meaning and it's just not a leather tunic.
Yeah, Deadpool actually started as a spoof of Spider-Man, but ended up being a spoof of Deathstroke. That I haven't heard that he started as a spoof of Spider-Man, but that's interesting. Scrolling down. All right, well, see you. Sleep well.
Good night, Tyler.
I'm a bit frustrated that my paranormal romance about Grim Reapers has now been shelved since I split with my agent. Oh, I'm sorry. Why is it shelved? Do you just need a new agent? Have you decided not to like write it?
Inquiring minds want to know.
The chat reloaded, y'all, so give me a moment to scroll back up. Ah, okay. Catherine doesn't feel like querying. Got you.
Ah.
Stig did talk about Brandon Sanderson's world building. And that is all I will say on the matter. Shadow people. I'll come after you too. I know you. I'm kidding. I'm just joking with her and she knows why. I love fashion and world building. I have friends who won't watch costume dramas with me because I nitpick the costumes. That's fair.
Oh, I love costume drama, so I'm so glad I don't know anything about costumes. But I guess that's kind of like why I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, because I know too much about medicine. So I'm like, a doctor discharging the patient? I don't think so.
You're like, that ain't gonna happen. I'm like reading people talking about comic book movies now.
You know I won't shut the fuck up about that.
So sorry. This comment. He does like do videos and stuff about his world building. So if anybody wants to go see that.
He has a high school, college class, I think, about outlining and world building and characters. That's free on YouTube.
Oh, hold on. I think okay. About why their movies suck is in response of you saying they copy each other's concepts. I didn't say they did it well all the time, or that they never come up with original stuff. It's just the thing that their rivalry has always done. Sometimes when they copy each other's heroes, the one copying does it better, which is always funny to see. Because I'm like, that spite though. Oh no, that's a big kitty to be on your book.
That's the best kitty. I love a good Maine Coon. Chunkier the better when it comes to cat.
Like them big. Oh, here's a good question. Does anyone have an example of world building that ruined the story for you?
I'm going to get a lot of hate right now, so controversial opinion.
Oh.
But I think Lord of the Rings is too much. Is that just me?
To be fair, I never finished reading Lord of the Rings because the purple prose and world building was just too much. I don't read a lot of older fantasy for that reason.
Yeah, it's just like, and the same with what's that super long one where the author died? Wheel of Time.
About the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, it's just it's too much for my little brain. I can't handle it. I mean, kudos to you if you love it, but I don't have the attention span to read Lord of the Rings again. I've done it once as a kid because I was determined to go through it because like that's quality literature, man. But it was just so long.
There are people who agree with us.
Thanks.
Yes.
I feel validated.
It's also a fun historical fact that back in the day, authors got paid by the word. So there was a lot of motivation to draw things out.
I mean, I could also draw things out with that. But yeah, that's when world building becomes too much for me.
Yes. I don't know that there's been that so I don't know that there's been like world building where the story where the world building itself ruined the story for me. The plot can, but in general, just like I guess because world building's low on priority for me, I'm willing to accept a lot of bad world building.
I think world building and character are things I enjoy most, but if the plot is bad, I'm like, I can't finish it.
Yeah. Well, no. As long as you give me one good character that I can root for, I'll read your story. I love watching films with elements of Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Norse mythology, but then others get annoyed when I pick out everything wrong with it. I think the thing to like watching stuff that's inspired by other things is just to like be forgiving. And like like with my sister, we'll discuss things that are inaccurate about certain things, or if I like watch a comic movie with my husband, we'll talk about what they changed. But I don't think I could enjoy something that I have to nitpick apart. So that's just my take on that.
Yeah, same. And also, I had a thought, but it was gone. Sorry.
Sorry for putting that on screen.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, it was Sophie. I think a lot of people would agree. It's just not suited to our 21st century taste.
Yeah.
Jenna says Skyward. I couldn't finish the book because of some of the world building. It was all world building and no story. I was halfway through the book and still no story. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, it's for someone, just not me. So, I mean, obviously he's doing well for himself. So, who am I to sit here, penniless author, and judge him? Not author, writer, penniless writer.
Man, if I got paid by the word.
It was really strong. So how strong was he?
Not very.
I think, especially when it comes to Tolkien, like The Hobbit is definitely more my taste than Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you read any of them.
I've seen the movies, and that's it.
Oh, okay, the Hobbit movies I don't talk about. But the book is good. Would recommend.
For The Hobbit?
Yes, the book. It is, yeah, it's really good. I liked it. It's very short too.
Maybe I shall give it a chance then.
What?
The Hobbit. My issue with a lot of Final Fantasy games is that they either give too much or not enough. Final Fantasy has its own special list of things that make it good and bad.
There's nothing wrong.
Do you want to take this one,
There's a
Sam?
lot.
It's a lot to unpack here, I feel.
That's the thing that like Chris and I could get into and just talk about for hours is our differing opinions on Final Fantasy VII. Anyways, you beautiful, wonderful people, I have to peace out and shower and sleep. I hope you all have a wonderful evening/day and that you have fantastic dreams when you sleep. Thanks for coming.
Good night.
I picked the hell out of Percy Jackson movies. They made my biggest thing with the Percy Jackson movies was I appreciated that in the book Hades was not a bad guy. And then the movies make Hades a bad guy. And I'm like, the rudeness, the disrespect here. How dare.
I tried reading Percy Jackson, but I did it as like a mid-20s, so I was like, this is not for me. But the younger me would have loved it.
How would you go about creating a fictional religion? Understanding real-world religions, why they come about, how they affect people, how they would change the culture. A lot of research and people watching and observation. How I would start after all of the research and stuff is just do they worship one or multiple deities? Are the deities real? That's really important because if the deities are real, that could like cause for some fun things later on. But if the deities are fake, then you could like really make a character question them and maybe even disprove and stuff. So I would start with deciding whether or not they were real and what their impacts on the world would have been.
Yeah, I think when I have two religions in mind, and I think like my biggest, not point, but like the thing I was most busy with in the beginning was like, why is this religion a thing? Where does it come from? Why does people believe this? And what is its purpose? If that makes sense. So, for example, I have one called just an entity called the Void, because in my world, humans came from space and landed on the planet, but they don't remember that. So now they just remember that we came from above and it was the Void, because the Void is just a space around them. And the Void put us on the Earth, and that's where we go back when we die. So that's like kind of their explanation. So they use it to explain why they live where they live.
Yes.
So although it's inspired by real life things, like it's not a real thing, it's not a real deity or an entity, it's just something they made up.
See, that's very different from mine, where the deities were real, and so I get to decide which ones fucked off and which ones are still around doing shit. On the bright side, one of my favorites in world building department is the MG series Tuesday at the Castle. It integrates complex world building seamlessly, and I enjoy the series. Oh, well, that's awesome.
I haven't heard of that one. But also I am not middle grade, so maybe that's why.
Are you upper grade? Are you just no grade anymore?
The infant grade, is that something? That's where
Infant
I'm at.
grade.
Emotionally.
Toddler books.
Yeah, just pictures, that's what I can relate to.
Yes, I wanted to see the beginning scene they described in the Lightning Peak. I don't remember much of the movies beyond that thing with Hades, but I I know that when you adapt a novel, you do have to change some things. I just feel like some things shouldn't be changed.
Agreed. And especially like the thing with Hades is that it's very often the bad guy, so it's like seen it all before. But like have him
Yeah,
as a great
and
character would be cooler.
he's not even like the bad guy in mythology. He's actually one of the chiller gods. Agreed, figured out what they believe and how much of it they've gotten right. Yes. How about a world where the historical figures are seen as religious figures and so their descendants are revered? That seen stories like that. It's actually one of my favorite things.
That's one of my religions. The other one.
I semi subvert that because his like the descendants that are revered of my shadow deity are actually semi demigods. So
I have this like druidic cult, I guess you can call them, that believes in a creature or like in a god called the Mother. So, and the Mother is actually a woman who lived back on our Earth who discovered the planetary system they fled to. And so she gained a following and she was killed because she gave away the information for free instead of selling it like a company would. So like her following or like a co-workers or whatever you want made a kind of a cult without realizing it was a cult, and that just transferred throughout time until throughout this new world. So now they worship just someone they know as the Mother, but they don't know she was a real person like thousands of years ago.
Where did it come from? Where did it go? Where did it come from? Stig's religion.
Brain.
On the subject of religion and world building, I sometimes feel uncomfortable approaching that, so I avoid it altogether, and I kind of realize that's lazy. Just understand that your fictional religion is a fictional religion. So as long as you're not like outright just copying a real world religion and portraying it horribly, it should be fine.
Yeah, that was kind of because originally I went with having like this super Christian theme religion going, but first of all, it's been done in June, so I'm like, this has been done before. I'm bringing nothing to the table, so I just went back to creating things from scratch, which have like the same kind of overarching theme with one deity and like it gives life and takes life, but like the context is completely different.
In my world, magic is bestowed by the gods who don't intervene in human affairs. Once magic is given, it's up to them what they want to do with it, even if they squander it. I both love and hate worlds like that, because then like when things are getting really fucked up, I'm like, what the fuck, gods? What's your point here? You just but also it's required for certain kinds of drama that I really enjoy in a novel. So I'm just like, okay, it's fine. Greek versus Norse mythology, which do you think is better? I'm very biased.
I'm very Norse, so I'm very biased too.
I'm Norse descendant, so we're both very biased towards Norse.
But I do love like mythology and pantheons in general, so
I like, yes, all of them. I have an
Greek,
interest in
Norse,
just about all of them. Greek,
Egyptian.
Norse, Egyptian, African, Chinese.
There's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Saturn devouring his son was one of my favorites. Just that out of context sentence. Yeah, that is a really creepy painting. Having no religion is also a world building choice. Yes, this is true.
Isn't that a thing in Star Trek?
I don't know.
Or are you allowed to have religion there? That there's no religion? I forget. I ask as if I'm.
Jenna, do you know? You're Trekkie. Is there religion in Star Trek? Why are you maniacal laughter? My husband is a cartoon villain.
Twitching his beard now in an evil laughter.
Now he's holding the ring fit. Thank you so much. I'm trying to differentiate the fantasy from reality in that regard, and one day I hope to get over my own personal feelings. I wish you much luck with that.
The best of luck, Tabitha.
My main cast are witches, and their belief is a kind of blend of influences, which has been fun finding the differences and similarities in religions. Awesome. My gods have to act through their demigod children and priests because they can't be everywhere at once. Ooh, that's valid and gives them, like, limitations. No, they were two different cultures that evolved separately from one another. So far as I am aware.
Me too.
So we're gonna look and see if we got to all the talking points, if I can click on the right chat room. I'm never gonna click on the right chat room. So do we have any oh, wait. It's sort of true. Like, the Starfleet folks are religionless. This is the short answer. So there you go.
I'll settle for the short answer.
The main group in Star Trek has no religion, but they do travel to lots of places that do, and they learn about those religions on occasion. I guess that's the long answer. Greek and Roman correlate. Yes, this is correct.
I wonder why.
Greek and Roman Greek and Roman correlate because Rome took over Greece and was like, these gods are pretty cool. Let's just change them a bit. And so they, like, altered it so that they would fit.
A lot of the what do you call them? Christian sacraments in Norway are like remnants of Norse practices that they just incorporated into the church.
Yeah, when Roman Catholicism started taking over the, like, pagan lands, they were like, we need them to convert to Roman Catholicism. You know what worked really well in Greece? Modifying their religion with ours. So let's just do that again. And so that's why when it comes to, like, Christmas and Easter and stuff like that, those holidays will have a pagan root or similarity to that.
This Jesus fella. And your Balder fella?
You know Balder? His real name is Jesus. It's fine. I stream every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for roughly 2.5 hours.
And it's a lot of fun, especially when we write and vote for fish and make commission art from it. Thank you, Sophie.
Oh, we need to show that next week. I know some about the Greek and Roman, but very, very little about the Norse. I like I said, I have a preference for the Norse one. Exactly. Just like everybody's, like, shading the Romans now.
I mean, they did a lot of wrongs.
So how are we feeling? Because we're approaching about 2 hours. So we could wrap up, or we could keep going. We've hit all our talking points. So unless chat, we have fish before the stream.
Just a random stream.
No, I have to keep those, like, for special occasions, or they will lose their novelty.
I'm not special enough, Eli.
I actually don't know a lot about the patron saints, so I don't know. Oh wait, that was
That was a petty comment.
Sorry.
And an unrelated note, Sam has some
Stream-
input.
Sorry, StreamYard updated when I clicked it. So yeah, I actually don't know a lot about the patron saints, so that's cool to know.
Norway was Protestant back in the good old state church days.
But do you honestly need politics when you world build? So, unfortunately, you need some form of politics because, like, your, like, cultures need some kind of leadership or reason that they don't have leadership, even if they're like say you've got the elders of a group and then they just, like, convene and decide on what's best for the group, like a giant family or a giant clan. That's still technically politics.
Yeah.
Politics are just, like, how your world is run.
But it doesn't have to be super complicated unless you want it to.
The one I said was, like, as the example, was super simple, so it could be like that. Which gods interested you? I'm just banging my head against trying to write a query letter again. Good luck with
good
you on
job.
that.
Good luck. There was this Christmas calendar made in Denmark when I was a kid. No, I was a kid. I was like mid-20s. Why am I saying kid? But it had a boulder character that was so cute I couldn't. So after that, Boulder is my favorite god.
He's like the cinnamon roll of the Parthenon.
Yeah,
Boulder.
I love Boulder.
Boulder. God
Yes. So this is a good point, actually. If your story does take place away from a bunch of people, which Jenna also pointed out, so technically there are circumstances in which politics don't matter in your world building.
Unless you're writing Lord of Flies.
What food? I need to know. Was it lutefisk? The only Norse
Stop
food I
with
know of, thanks to my
lutefisk.
husband. I'm sorry, I know he trolled you with that. He's doing his ring fit. I had to.
It has like a super Christmassy dinner too, which makes it even funnier. Because I'm like, no, people just don't eat lutefisk all willy-nilly.
Wolf politics. Wait, somebody studied religion. Jessica did. I studied religion and art history in college, so like we're in my zone right now. Ooh, art history is another like good thing that can be really interesting for your world building.
Especially if your main character is an artist, or what?
TSS is on pre-order. Get it.
Buy it now,
Even-
we have.
Even in a post-apocalypse with a ragtag group of survivors fighting over who leads that small group is politics. That's true.
Not that Lord of the Flies shit.
That is the Lord of the Flies. Definitely definitely like how he turned Thor into a girl or something like
Definitely
that.
Loki, how he turned Thor into a girl. Ah, yeah, I know that myth.
He ate more deer than me. Sucks to suck, Carl. CEO Savvy's getting like deep into the politics, and I'm just sitting here like
I believe them.
Right? Like this sounds right. This sounds right. I trust you. Understandable, but sad.
Oh, food though. Why is food so good? Another stream topic.
People are having a conversation about their stories, which is cool. I support it. I just don't have anything to contribute to it. All right. So, does anybody have any other questions or anything that we want to talk about before we head out?
I've said my piece.
This is one of those times where I'm like, I don't know if chat's just not talking or if StreamYard is going to load up comments. So I'm going to go check the YouTube app. Poor Jesse is on the thumbnail. Yeah, they okay. Audra's qualified to teach politics, but isn't getting deep into it.
It's a sound choice, I think.
Anybody who wants to do a live stream on politics, I'll sit in your channel and watch it. All right, so I guess that we're good. Was there anything else you wanted to?
No. I have nothing to contribute except Norse mythology knowledge.
Right. Thank you for the helpful distraction in between parenting this evening. You're very welcome. I know that structure.
She'll be here every Monday.
Level, not structure. I guess structure too. Yes, I am here every Monday. So go ahead and do your outro, Stig.
My name is Stig. I am a writer and a professional hot mess, and I'm currently being very rudely interrupted, Chris.
He's calling you up for interrupting him.
Get back to his crisps.
I write space opera mysteries with a political intrigue. And yeah, a tad of gay romance and a tad of revenge and little bit of this.
Sorry, did you finish your outro? Chris was
Yes.
like doing things.
I also got very distracted by Chris. It's cool.
Right? Okay, so I am writing mom Samantha L. Nasset. This is my channel. I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer parent things. I host live streams like this or write-ins every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. To everyone who didn't know, that was my husband. He can occasionally be a little bit of a troll and a butt, so you
All
get
the
to look
time.
forward to that too. All right. Well, we're ending here for the night. I also post videos on Wednesdays. And for those of you who, were asking and interested, I do have my short story up on my website. So go check that out if you want.
It is
Bye,
very good.
everyone.
Go read it. Bye.
Bye.